Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the EduHaven course on AP Biology. Today we cover photosynthesis. If you're ready to succeed, let's go. As you know, all organisms need energy to grow, maintain complexity, and reproduce. And while I hope you get more out of this video than just this, if there's one key takeaway from photosynthesis is that it stores energy. And if you want to get fancy, it stores sunlight energy into glucose. Now, photosynthesis occurs in all plants and some photosynthetic bacteria. Photosynthesis occurs in chloroplasts, which evolved from endosymbiosis. This is just a theory that states that more complex organelles like chloroplasts and mitochondria evolved from prokaryotes engulfing other prokaryotes. This means that photosynthesis originated in prokaryotic cells and then eventually came to what it is today in eukaryotes. A byproduct, which we'll learn in a second, of photosynthesis is oxygen, which allowed the atmosphere to be created. All right, now that we're done with some of the evolution of photosynthesis, let's talk about the actual process. Photosynthesis is simply remembered by a simple phrase, cows go. This means carbon dioxide plus water plus sunlight will equal glucose and oxygen. But how much of everything? This is actually pretty easy. It's 6 carbon dioxide, 6 water, and 6 oxygen. And sunlight you don't really quantify, and water and glucose will always be 1. Photosynthesis comes in 2 steps: the light-dependent reactions and the dark reactions, or the light-independent reactions. In the light-dependent reactions, water will undergo hydrolysis and drop off electrons in the chloroplast, specifically in the thylakoid membrane of the chloroplasts. And within these thylakoid membranes, they have photosystems, photosystem 2 and photosystem 1, and we'll learn why 2 is actually mentioned before 1 in a second. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of stuff, let me mention one thing. Pigments are chemicals that absorb specific wavelengths of light, and they reflect others, and the light that's reflected is the actual color of the thing. Therefore, we can assume that in chloroplasts or leaves in general, they reflect green light, and they absorb other frequencies of light. You can actually see this on a graph because pigments that absorb certain wavelengths have a higher absorption level for those wavelengths and a lower absorption level for different wavelengths. Now, remember when I said that water drops off electrons at the photosystems? Well, at photosystem 2, which actually comes first, electrons are boosted by sunlight, specifically the wavelengths of 680 and 700. And how is this energy transferred? You guessed it, pigments. Now, if you want to know which pigments are used, you can say chlorophyll alpha, chlorophyll beta, or carotid pigments. But these are also really specific things, and you may not even need to know them, really. Now, once these electrons are boosted, they go down an electron transport chain, which we'll cover in the cell respiration topic. Put simply for now, this ETC will create ATP, which is like energy molecules. These electrons, which are now boosted again, also come with hydrogen and go into NADP plus to reduce it into NADPH. NADPH now carries high energy electrons, and ATP also has energy from photosystem 2. These together now head over to the light independent reactions, or the dark reactions. This series of reactions is also called the Calvin cycle because the products eventually go back into the reactants and it restarts the cycle. These reactions occur in the stroma, which are like the liquidy part outside the thylakoids. In these reactions, a series of enzymes create a bunch of products. Specifically, we start off with CO2, which is one of the reactants. One CO2 becomes 3 PGA. These 3 PGAs turn into pGAL, which is then boosted from the ATP and the NADPH from the light reactions to create G3P. Now, this ATP and NADPH doesn't just stay there. It actually gets reduced into NADP plus and also ADP plus a phosphate group, which are then sent back into the thylakoid membrane. Now, I'd like you to guess how many CO2 we need for 1 glucose to be made. Now, if you just said 6, you'd be correct. 6 carbon dioxide molecules turn into 6 G3Ps, which then eventually form 1 glucose. One important thing I want to mention is that in the process that I highlighted here, when
inorganic carbon dioxide becomes into organic carbon PGA. It's catalyzed by an enzyme called Rubisco, and it synthesizes it with RUBP. And this is really important because this is how all organisms, or how all organic matter is like comes from, because it's organic carbon. And it's called carbon fixation. So note that down.
which stores chemical energy into its bonds and therefore can later be released by cellular respiration, which is the next topic. And this release of energy will allow organisms to grow, maintain complexity, and reproduce, which is now a full circle moment. Nailed it. And that's all for photosynthesis. If you enjoy this video and want to watch another, click right here. If you want to subscribe to the channel, click right here. Thanks for watching, and I hope you succeed.